and this dinosaur is kind of looking up and calling out, it looks like almost. So I'm going to put it like that. So you hear noises going out. There's still life outside these doors, so people are talking. So anyway, so I'm going to look about a third of the way up here, and then this is broken down into thirds, and think I'm about right here and right here. I'm going to put the basic body of the dinosaur is going to come down like this, like almost half of a circle, a little bit more than half. It looks like that, right? So this is going to be, this dinosaur has kind of a big belly, right? So I'm going to carry this tail idea about halfway up from the bottom of that. Whoop, too much. And that's going to be the tail of the dinosaur. I'm going to give you a minute because I know you're kind of erasing things, and if you're trying to follow me, I always erase, so you have to follow my erasing as well as my drawing. So that's the tail part of the dinosaur. Now we're going to do the head part, and this head is kind of interesting. It comes out like this and rounds off at the top, and then we have its mouth, right? And the mouth comes down and then forms a jaw up there. You might make this, you might pull this line down. You can actually pull it down a little bit so that it comes down there, and then erase that tiny line there. We'll eventually be erasing this line too. You won't be seeing that. So you can do that, and you could also do this. This line wants to connect to the body in a more, it's a little more curvy there. Curvy's a good word, right? Curvy. By the way, while its feet, usually just make a little line here, but it's a soft line so that you can erase it later. And you're actually done with this drawing, you can just clean up around the lines. It always makes it look a little better if you clean up around the lines as they disappear. But we're going to put in the legs, and the legs are going to start here. Going to come down there, and they're rather thick legs, so they're going to start here. I'm going to make them taper to the smaller feet a little bit better than that. I'm going to bring it down inside like this. And then maybe like this. How about that? Right? And then just the suggestion of some toes here. And a swooping kind of tiny line under there. Now this leg's a little different. This one starts right up against its belly here. Up to there. And then a tapering line starting about here, a third of the way up the belly, and then down there. Swooping line underneath, and the suggestion, of course, of some toes. Probably looking like a dinosaur now. Almost. We're bringing it back to life from its extinction. I'm going to round off the head a little bit so that it looks more like a head. This is not the eye. The eye is going to be located slightly different, but I'm going to clean those lines up so that we can see that. One of the problems with using an eraser like this is that the eraser has to be like that. Almost looks like he's smiling there a little bit. And there is a bit of a nostril. A bit of a nostril right there, okay? And that's the beginning of the animal. The rest of this is shading and erasing. But I'm going to take you through those steps too. So this leg has kind of got a shoulder back here and a little shoulder here, so the leg actually kind of swoops up here. I'm going to just give you a light line of what it looks like. Now that actually looks like there's some muscle in that. And the same goes for here. This is going to come all the way up here. Kind of get a little muscly there. And then, erasing these lines, so these particular things have some shape to them. We can do some shading to make them look like they have some roundness here just by shading using the pencil and moving it back and forth like this. Actually, it looks like it could have some roundness to it, like a leg, like all legs do. I don't want to say all legs, but dinosaur legs for sure, and human legs. Right? Just a little bit. You're going to suggest that for now. This just for make it look sort of like it's a tubular shape. Oh, animals are tubes, right? Animals like this for sure. And we're going to follow this line a little bit down here with the side of the pencil. Remember when I told you we didn't really use the real sharp point, and you could find a place to kind of unsharpen that point by drawing on it on the tip a little bit so it's not so abrupt. Sometimes you need a very fine line, but you don't really need the line, the finest line that a pencil sharpener usually makes. They make usually very long. So I'm going to darken this a little bit. I like darkening my outlines, but you have to be careful about that because you slip and move, but you have to follow the line carefully. So just remembering, and then I'm going to bring this line down here. Almost everything can be drawn with shadow. Sometimes you don't even need a line. If you watch drawings of people's faces, you'll see that it's mostly just different shadings, no real lines. If you draw lines in too deep, it really makes the creature look older when the lines are too deep. Of course, dinosaurs are pretty old. So I'm going to make this belly look like a belly. And I'm also going to make, I know that this tail kind of connects a little bit more to this part of the belly, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. So that looks like that actually follows through, these lines follow through behind that leg, right? And there's a little bit more shadow up here, a little bit more shadow up here, very lightly, okay? And then these lines here meeting in the middle there. You can actually do some light lines like through here. See this little, I doubt that little is a sharp corner on that particular dinosaur, so I'm going to round that little edge off. Sometimes you can do it without erasing, just by making the line curve up. A lot of artists don't use erasers at all. They're very skilled at doing lines, making the lines careful, and they're very skilled at lining rather. I'm going to bend this paper over here. It's kind of under this apparatus, so I'm going to make some lines here, just on one side of the leg and then on the other side of the leg, because that gives it a sense of shape. Okay. You could shade that whole thing in there. But if you want to shade the back, or you want to give it some shape, you want to try to shade your dinosaur by moving the pencil in this direction. And even better yet, to hold the pencil like this. That way you can get more movement out of it. You can actually move around. So, more lines here. Give it that tubular look, that conical look, I guess, in this case. And then some more shading. This outline is going to be a little thicker if I hold the pencil sideways. Hold the pencil sideways. Okay. And a little bit more shading here. shading went past my line. Made a new line. I find this really relaxing. I don't know about you guys. So just beyond the leg, there's going to be some shadow in there. And there's going to be a little bit heavier shadow right here. Of course, you'll have to remember this line. You have to darken this line a little bit here. There's going to be a little bit more shadow behind, because light has a hard time getting under here, right? Make this a little bit more pronounced. It's starting to look like a dinosaur of sorts, right? Now, can't really see the legs behind the legs, but for a little bit, coming right about here, you can see a little bit of the other leg. And because we're looking at it straight on, the front left leg is going to look like it comes out about there. And just going to give a suggestion of that leg. This drawing is about illusion, but it's about seeing. And the idea is not to think, somebody says, draw a dinosaur. You really should just draw what you see, not what you think a dinosaur is. I'm going to add a couple more things. I'm going to try to get this just for a couple more minutes. I don't want it to take too long. So I'm going to take some shortcuts. See, this line we drew here is not really the horizon line. The horizon line would be beyond this guy. And you probably would be looking at a flat line somewhere around here, kind of beyond him, and he'd have a place to stand in that case. At the same time, there's probably some mountains in the background, so we could just see that that works like that, maybe. Any kind of thing would work. And remember to stay inside the line, our imaginary line here, so you have the white space around it. So you can continue working on this, adding some shade. Remember, you can always erase. Sometimes you'll put so much shade here like this, and you want to think, well, maybe I need just a little bit, very lightly. I'm barely holding this thing, and erase a spot in the middle so that you still retain the shape of the thing. And you can work on this tail a little bit more by doing this, okay, and coloring in as you go. Well, I'm going to continue this, and I'll add some notes, and then maybe we can share out on our next meeting when we have our Google meeting, maybe tomorrow or another day. But I think this is fun. This is good. I made a logo for me. I make a G in the big block letter, and I circle it. That's my little signature, so you always know it's me. And then I try to shade something in, like I shade the outline in, just for fun. Adds a little of me to the drawing. Then I put the date. Today is 4/22/20. And this is my COVID-19 Camarasaurus. Camarasaurus means chambered lizard. I'm going to write that too. Keep on drawing. Chambered. You know the word camera means box. Interesting. Well, thanks for joining in. We'll see you soon.